Welcome to Over 40, Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 75. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, today you've come to the right place. And today on the show, we have Tara on to share her pregnancy journey at 40 and 44. This is Tara from the Donor Egg Roundtable, episode 70. What is super fun is that she is good friends with Janie from episode 65. This isn't the first time this has happened, which is still so fun for me. These two ladies met through their clinic through the support group in Denver, Colorado. Tara reached out to me after Jeannie's episode and offered to share her story. And of course, I agreed. We recorded this episode, and then the Donor Egg Roundtable show ended up jumping in before this show aired. So you heard quite a bit of her story on that show, but today you are going to hear it from start to finish. She has such an amazing story and so much good advice on donor egg conception. And all of the links will be on the website under episode 75. But before we get into her story, I wanted to make a few notes about last week's show, which you seem to really like Claire's story. And I had a few interesting conversations about miscarriage in my DMs. I was sharing my positive spin on my losses when she replied that it's devastating. And why do they have to be a miscarriage? I know how devastating loss can be, but I don't want to reflect on it that way. That's just my personal choice, but I believe it serves me. I don't believe that it serves me to describe my losses as devastating. After I put more thought into our conversation, I really wanted to say that we can't argue with the past. Believe me, I've tried. I just want to believe that they gave me hope after I took time to grieve, of course, and that pregnancy is possible, and that was my body trying at it. Just my 2 cents on it. I know how hard loss is, and I feel that it serves me better to find a positive light in it. Not that I'm trying to make this super positive, amazing thing. No. I just want to put a little bit positive to help me move forward with it a little easier. And anyways, this week I am 23 weeks. We had our anatomy scan last week with the MFM. Hello, I am going to an MFM now. I really expected this to be a cute little sonogram, but oh no. There was so much more to it. Lots and lots of pushing on my belly and hundreds of images later. I was so sore afterwards. When I first started to experience this soreness, I really started to be concerned. Like, where did it come from? Why is this happening? And then I realized that it was the sonogram and all the pushing on my belly. I even woke up in the middle of the night. I almost cried. I was in so much pain because of the soreness. Oh man, it was bad. But I mean, what I really meant to say, that was the unexpected part of the experience. But yes, it went great, which I think I was expecting it to go well, but it's also the other side of me felt a lot of relief that everything went great. Like, I love great news. And I've been getting it since October. And it is so much better than the bad news that we've been receiving the last almost 3 years. So this is fun. The baby's brain and organs and heart all look great. It was really fun to see it on the screen. The doctor even said his chi looked really good. He was quite a character, but at least he made it fun. Apparently, IVF babies have a higher chance of heart defects, so that was one reason to get a scan done with an MFM. Who knew? I feel like there's those little things that they don't tell you about, and it's like, oh, okay, now we're finding out. Now, oh, right. But I'm so glad everything is okay. And even though everything went well, they want to see us back because of my age and because I'm an IVF pregnancy in a month. So I think it will actually be after my 43rd birthday that we go back. I'm okay with these monthly things, but I hear so many other women going like weekly or alternating appointments. Oh, I hope that's not me, but I have a feeling that's where we're going with this. Maybe that's okay. But with that, let's get into Tara's pregnancy story. Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
She was pregnant at 40 and 44. Her first pregnancy was natural, and her second one, she used donor eggs. And before we get started with her story, Tara, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Tara Bracker, and I have a wonderful husband, Mitch, and 2 children. My first child, Sailor, who is now 6, was born naturally or conceived naturally. And then my son, Jensen, who just turned 2 in December, we had secondary infertility. And so he was conceived using an egg donor. And I'm originally from Massachusetts, grew up in a very small town in Massachusetts. It was very sheltered. And as soon as I went to college, I moved away and haven't gone back as far as living there for the most part. And then I moved out to Denver, Colorado about almost 11 years ago. So the middle of 2013 for a job after I completed my MBA at Northeastern in Boston. So I still have a bunch of family. My family's all back in Massachusetts, but met my husband out here, and we've just been able to build a really great life out here. So
awesome. And what's also unique is that you're friends with Jeannie.
I am. And Jeannie was just on the podcast. So yeah, Jeannie and I met through the donor conception group that CCRM in Colorado puts together. And, at first I was a little bit skeptical about joining a support group, just that was so like public about what you're doing, not public to the outside, but just public with each other. And probably one of the best things I could have done. My husband and I both thrived in it, and we really looked forward every month. I think it was once a month to those conversations. And it was mostly during COVID. So we didn't get to meet people in person very often, but we did get to meet up with a couple folks. And I have 2 really amazing friends, my friend Jeannie and my friend Peggy from the group. And we talk regularly and see each other as much as we can. So we live pretty close, all in Denver proper. So it's been amazing. And they have children that are donor conceived as well. And Jeannie also has a biological son who's older as well. So we have a lot of things in common between the 3 of us. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, what a great friendship to have that with.
Yeah, it's been fabulous. I mean, I feel like you have friends in your life for different reasons. And these people came into our lives, just when we needed it, right? And just the support network through that group. It's hard to, especially with using donor eggs, whether it be donor sperm or donor eggs or adopted embryos, it's just very different than a lot of people. And it's getting much more common, but people don't talk about it. So we're very open about it. We talk about it. It's not a secret. It's something that we're open with our children. And if anyone asks questions, we're happy to have a conversation about it. And people are very wide-eyed and, just kind of like, wow, like taken aback in a good way when they learn our story. And they ask quite a few questions because people you'd be surprised how many people do not understand how fertility works. which I think we need a lot more education on that front. But it's been nice to just educate and just be proud of what we did, how we leaded our family.
Yeah. So let's go back to your story. I think your story starts in your 30s.
It does. Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to start. Kind of when I started thinking about my fertility, I kind of knew from an early age that I was going to have issues having children. My mother and her mother both went into menopause in their 40s, pretty early into their 40s. So this was always in the back of my head, but really nothing I could do about it because egg freezing wasn't really a thing in my 20s at all. I'm 46 right now. So, go back, 26 years, it's really wasn't an option. I think there was definitely fertility, you could use fertility places back then, but they were very different to what they do now. And also the money that it costs to do egg freezing was just out of my range. So I moved out to Denver in 2013, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I had the opportunity to meet with a few folks that had done egg freezing, but also I realized that I had a lot of benefits with the company I started working for, and that was something that I had never had before. So it didn't exactly cover the egg freezing process, but it did cover all of the medical process getting to that point. So basically, if you're going through IVF without actually making an embryo, right? It didn't pay for the freezing of the eggs or the storage of the eggs, but getting to that point, the medication, doing the shots, the medical appointments, the ultrasounds, it did cover all of that, which was very surprising. At the end of the day, I think I spent maybe $10,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but in the reality of things, it's actually a pretty good
not bad
discount from what it would have been out of pocket. I had to think long and hard about it, but I knew I didn't have a lot of time. I was 36 at this point. So, and I had never gotten tested. I didn't know any of my numbers. I just knew that I really wanted to have children and I was still single and I didn't want to rush the whole finding someone process either. So I went in and I actually didn't start at CCRM. I started at Conceptions, which is another competitor out here, very good facility as well. But I went through the process by myself and I had to make the decision, do I want to freeze my eggs? Will I use these someday, whether I'm by myself or with someone? And I think that was something that I really thought long and hard about. I talked to my parents about it, which of course they were, very supportive, but just kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't even know this was something that you could do, right? Because why would they? They had me at 23, had no fertility issues. They were done having kids by 26 and, they got married at 19. It was just a very different world back then. So yeah, I went ahead and did the first round of IVF by myself and my numbers were not great. I mean, as soon as I got the blood work back, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to be great, but it was a lot worse than I thought. But they were like, let's move forward. Let's try and see how many eggs we get. I ended up with 5 eggs, only 3 were viable. So I froze 3 eggs. But just going through that whole process by myself was just kind of this like whirlwind of emotions. It actually wasn't that hard to do the shots. It was just weird. Like, doing it by yourself, like you have to find a friend to bring you to your appointment for your egg retrieval because they knock you out, right? So you can't drive home. And it's like, at the time, I didn't really share a lot about it because it wasn't that I was embarrassed. I just didn't really know anyone out here yet. It was very early into my moving here, but I knew that time wasn't on my side. So ultimately came out of the surgery, had 5 eggs, and then only had 3 that were mature and frozen. So I sat on that for a little while and literally 6 months later, I had a wonderful nurse there who kept following up with me and they were like, I really think you should do another round if you want more than one child someday. Like, yes, this won't guarantee anything, but let's try. And I still had benefits because the new year had started. So
perfect.
It did cost about the same again, but it was fine. Like I could afford it with what I was making. And I got 3 eggs again.
Wow.
3 is the number. So, disappointed, yes, but I had 6 eggs on ice and I was like, okay, well, this is at least, maybe this would get me one child, right? Maybe I could use this for one child. And then that was kind of the end of it. And I made the decision to not really talk about it with like anybody I dated because I was dating, not a ton of people, but I had a couple relationships before I met my husband and I just kind of kept it to myself because I was like, this is going to scare someone away. Like, who wants to hear about this? Right.
Yeah.
So, like, this is weird. Fast forward, I meet my husband it was now, gosh, we're going on our 9th year of being together. So it was like 2000, I can't do the math. Maybe end of 2015, I think is when we met. And we ended up meeting online, which is
How
so
old
funny.
were you?
I was 38 and he was 28. So yeah,
Ooh.
robbing the cradle, definitely. Yeah. I get that joke all the time still, 8.5 years later. So, but nevertheless, we went on our first date and I was like, this is never gonna last. Like, he's way too young, like he's too handsome, like he's just, what does he want to do with this old lady? And here we are. So, it just took off really fast. Like we fell in love really quick. And we knew we wanted to be together. And so, we started talking about the whole child thing pretty quickly, surprisingly. I think I was just really comfortable and it just felt like, I need to know if you even are interested in having kids because you're so much younger than me. And I was worried that his answer was going to be no, to be honest. So no, he was like, yeah, he's like, and it was funny. His answer was, well, it's not that I don't, and it's not that I do. It's just I never have been with someone that I even had that thought process, right? And I think
Yeah.
that also a testament to his age, right, at the time. Like, I'm sure that doesn't really come up in a lot of 20 or 29, whatever age we talked about this at. Girls' minds, number one. Number two, I just think he hadn't had met someone that he felt like he could do that with.
Mhm.
So that to me, that was a yes. So I took it as a yes, ran with that. And we went on our first trip together a couple months later to Cabo. And it was funny. I was like, I need to tell him about this egg freezing stuff. I need to tell him. And I was like, I gotta do it before we leave. I don't know why I was like forcing myself, but I felt like I was hiding something, when you just don't feel like you're totally being yourself. And
Yeah.
I knew this was the real thing and I knew I wanted to be with him. And I was like, this is probably going to really scare him away. He's probably going to leave me in Cabo. I mean, I didn't really think that, but that's what was going through my brain.
Yeah. Your brain really
Yeah.
goes far.
Yeah. The brain really goes far with these things. And so I told him and he was like, oh, I'm a fertility baby. And I was like, what? Like, we just
What?
never had that conversation. So his mom, so he's the second child, he's the middle child, and she was having trouble getting pregnant because I think there's 6 years maybe between him and his sister. And then there's another 5 years before she had his younger brother. But yeah, back then it was just fertility drugs. Because I mean, he was born in 1986, so whatever they used in that time period. But yeah, I mean, he was very like aware of fertility drugs, how that works, and it was the easiest conversation I ever had with anybody, any man about fertility stuff. So I was like, okay, I really worried about this for weeks for absolutely nothing. But yeah, so he was like aware of it, happy to like have more conversations, and it was so easy. And that just really, I think that just brought our relationship to a whole nother level too,
Yeah.
because I just felt like, okay, this person understands me. I don't have to like hide it from him. And, if he knows the path isn't going to be easy if this is what we want to do. Right. So I remember his mom saying, and she'll probably listen to this too, but I remember he told me that his mom was like, well, do you want to give her a ring first or give her a baby first? And he's like, definitely a baby. And this was like a year, and this wasn't like the next day. This was
Yeah.
like a year into our relationship. And I think he just knew that my clock was ticking like pretty hardcore. I mean, I had only gotten 6 eggs after 2 rounds of IVF, and like why go on birth control and stop and not try when the chances of me, every doctor had told me that it was like less than 10% of conceiving naturally with a live birth because of my numbers just being so terrible. Yeah, my AMH was super low. My follicle count was really low. I think it was like 7 maybe, which is not great for a 38-year-old. I think most people have a few more than that. And so yeah, we tried but didn't try, like, it was just kind of like no birth control basically. And let's see, it would have been the fall of 2016, I think it was. We actually got pregnant, and I was shocked because we were like, this is not going to happen. We're going to end up having to use these eggs. Like, and unfortunately, after a couple of weeks, we learned that it was a miscarriage. And so we lost
Ugh.
that baby at 9.5 weeks. And I was still under the care of the fertility place. So thankfully, we got a lot of, I feel like, extra things and things that I advocated for that maybe we wouldn't have if I was just a regular person. So we
Like
ended up
what?
just getting the embryo tested. And that was something
Okay.
that I had read about, but I didn't know if they would do it. I didn't know if it would cost $1 million or if like insurance would pay
Right.
for something like that. And I was like, but I really need to know because I was on a lot of medication. I've had a couple of surgeries for discs in my neck. And I was like, did the medication, like, did that kill the baby? Like, first
Yeah.
pregnancy, you just don't know. I'm like, did my body like harm the baby? Like, was the medication I was taking harming the baby? So anyways, we did end up having a DNC, which I'm so glad I went that route because I've heard nightmare stories about going the other route. And where there was enough tissue to get tested, and it did come back that it was trisomy 14, which is actually pretty rare, interestingly. So this kind of set off, it made us feel better that we knew that it wasn't me or him that like caused this problem, but it did set off a series of tests for both of us, which was good because at that point we had just conceived naturally, right? We knew I could get pregnant. So I guess that was like a positive step in the right direction, but we're wondering why, like, was one of us, I guess the doctors were curious, or was one of us walking around with extra 14 and we were okay with, like, you can have trisomies or different, I guess, extra chromosomes or genetic things that you look totally fine, but you could still have something going on, right? Like, how people have a lot of like the inverted chromosome, like they're on the wrong side, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't know it. I forgot what that's called. But so anyways, we got like one of those 250 panel chromosome, are you a carrier for this? Are your chromosomes normal?
Yeah.
Thankfully, we were both completely normal. We had the right number of chromosomes and we were carriers each for one thing, but not the same thing. So that was
That's
good to know
good.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had gotten his sperm tested as well. And it was all really good. Like, with his age, like I wasn't surprised that it was fine. Right. So that was in 2016. And then, yeah, so we were like, okay, we have those 6 eggs on ice, but let's try and do a round of IVF like together. Right. Because I had only those eggs frozen. And we were they're like, let's wait until you start your cycle to buy the meds. You just never, like, it's $5,000. It's not refundable. You can't send them back. Like,
Yes.
let's just make sure, like, before we start the meds or buy the meds, because they can ship them overnight. You probably know how that works. Like, it comes fast. So it was like 2 weeks had gone by. I hadn't started my cycle. And she was like, why don't you just come in and like, we can test your blood work and see. She never said to see if you're pregnant. She said to see like if, something's off, right, with your cycle, where you're at. She calls me like an hour later, you're pregnant. I was like, what? And I was at my office. I didn't work from home at the time. My boss happened to be in town from New York, like, and he, like, it was just the funniest thing. And so I hit
Wow.
the office and like screamed internally, right? Like, and started crying, like, didn't tell anybody, obviously. And I called Mitch and he was like, what? He's like, are you joking? I'm like, no. And so like I rushed home like as soon as I was done and celebrated, but I was still like petrified, right? Because this was another natural conception. I'm like, great, it's going to end up in the same problem that we already had. Like, it's not going to work. And Sailor, that was, I mean,
amazing.
yeah, we had like all the testing done. We had the NIPT testing because it was a natural conception and came back low, virtually no issues. Whatever that is. I think it's like no low probability or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was so anxious the whole time. I mean, I was the worst pregnant person because I was just worried it was going to end every time I went in for a scan.
Yeah.
But I was really lucky. CCRM recommended the OB literally across the hall. Like, I just had to walk across the hall. Midtown OB and this wonderful lady, Dr. Offerdal, and she and I just clicked right away. She had her last baby at like 42 or 43. She had IVF and natural pregnancies. So like we had a lot in common. And I mean, that poor woman, I'd make her like bring in the old school like scanner, like that rolls into the room that you can barely see the baby on, like every time I went in. And she's like, call me if you need like if you get nervous or something doesn't feel right, like you can come in anytime. And I thought that was just so helpful, especially in the beginning, because you go from the fertility clinic seeing them like every week, sometimes twice, and then you're like, oh, 4 weeks? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I did make it 4 weeks. Like once it got like to that cadence, I was like sort of okay, but I was just so anxious the whole time.
I wanted to ask you about, going back to your miscarriage. Did it help you like mentally to have all that testing to know that information?
Yeah. I mean, I was still super upset and it was very, very devastating.
Of course.
And Mitch also had a really hard time with it too, like coming from a male perspective. He just, was super sad and just didn't know how to process it. And we weren't expecting to be pregnant to begin with. So I think then losing the baby shortly after was even more shocking to us. But I will say, like, once those test results came in, I mean, I remember exactly where I was sitting. It was at an apartment we were living in at the time. And we got that call from the nurse and it was like 8 o'clock at night. It was late for some reason. She had like worked super late that day. And she was kind enough to just be like, I literally just got the results like in my email. And she was like, I know you've been so upset. Like, I just want you to know, like, this baby wouldn't have survived, like, no matter what. Right. So it wasn't compatible with life, I don't think. So yeah, I think it definitely like closed the question mark box, right, for us of like, could we have done something different? and we couldn't have, right? I mean, this is like the natural way of taking care of, right? Taking care of something that's not going to work, right? A baby wasn't going to be able to survive that chromosomal abnormality. So, I mean, I have a cousin who, had a miscarriage at like 25. Like, it can happen at any age. Like, I don't, yes, I know you
Sure.
have a lot more chances of miscarriages as you age and like your eggs, the quality goes down for sure. But I mean, it happens so often. People just don't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why we were like, yeah, we're going to talk about it. As soon as we started talking about it with friends and family, we were like, oh, I had a miscarriage. Really? Like, I didn't know that. I've known you for
Yep.
20 years. Like, I didn't know that. Like, why didn't you ever tell us? We could have been like there for you. Oh, well, we just kept it private. I mean, it's way better than it used to be. People are talking about things way more, but back then I think people just didn't talk about.
Yeah. It's so true. Okay. How was Sailor's birth? Did everything go okay there?
Yeah, I had a really good pregnancy. The only thing that we kept an eye on since I was literally I had turned 40 in April and I had her in November. So
Uh-huh.
I was still 40 when I gave birth to her. And my doctor had just been like I don't know if she'd been part of the studies or read a lot of studies, but I guess there's a higher chance of stillbirth after 39 weeks. And I know this is pretty common that at 39 weeks, when you're of the advanced maternal age, they do usually induce you at 39 weeks because they don't want
Yes.
you to go over or even to 40 weeks exactly. So I knew that was coming. And I was totally fine with that. I was like, if you need to take her out at 37, like if you think something's wrong, take her out, like whatever you need to do. And I was open to a C-section or like, it didn't matter. I just wanted a healthy baby. I wanted myself to be healthy and go home with a healthy baby. Right. So yeah, I mean, everything worked according to plan. I think I went in for all my like NST testing, all that stuff was great at the end. And I went in at like my almost 39-week appointment. Maybe it was like 38 weeks or whatever it was. And she's like, well, I'm on call this weekend and, you're really uncomfortable. Like I couldn't like sit anymore. Like I literally couldn't find a comfortable spot. And it wasn't like I was doing anything. Like I was working, but I really was like I wasn't working very hard. And I worked from home. So it was like I could just lay on my couch with my computer on my lap. Like it was no big deal. And I couldn't even like lay on the couch. It was just I ended up like bouncing on one of those big balls. Like I was just miserable. And my anxiety was getting worse because I was just wanting to make sure everything went okay. And I didn't know
Uh-huh.
what birth was going to be like. So nevertheless, she was like, all right, I think you're done. Like, so it was like 38 in like 2 days or whatever it was. And so I was scheduled to come in like Sunday. And then they're like, well, a lot of people walked into L&D today. So can you come at like 11:30 p.m.? And I was like, sure. Like, so I remember like we got my mom there, like, because I think we had a few days to like plan that was going to be like that Sunday or whatever. So she's in Boston. So we flew her out. I wanted her to be there for the birth and she wanted to be in the room and Mitch was okay with that. So, and yeah, like literally we get there Sunday, like almost midnight. And I didn't have her till like Wednesday or Thursday. It was
Oh
ridiculous.
my gosh.
It was a long induction. I had a friend, Claire, who literally had just her baby's 5 weeks older than Taylor, and who's also 6 now as well. And she literally had an induction, but she's younger than me. So she went to the full 40 weeks and it took 8 hours to get the baby out. For me, it took like 3 or 4 days. It was insane. I think I was in
Yeah.
like 31 hours of labor and I was probably an hour away from a C-section because I just wasn't dilating at all.
Uh-huh.
It was just the longest. I mean, my poor mom and Mitch were just like on and off sleeping. I can't really sleep because I'm hooked up to all these machines. They're beeping, like it's just ridiculous. They're checking me every like 2 hours. And finally, like it must have been Wednesday. Maybe it was Wednesday. Finally, they're like, you're dilated like 8 centimeters. I'm like, let's go then. Two more. We only got to go two more. And then finally, like, but I think I pushed for like 2.5 hours. I mean, it was just like
Ugh.
slow going. Like I was like, but my doctor did say to me, I remember, I'll never forget. She's like, if I was a male doctor, you would have for sure had a C-section. She's like, you're lucky I'm a woman. And it was patient. Like she was, I think male doctors are just I don't think she was not like poo-pooing them, but she was just like, it's usually a lot. They don't have as much patience with it, right? Like,
Okay.
yeah, and there was nothing wrong. Like the heartbeat was fine. I was fine. My blood pressure, there was nothing wrong with either of us. So there was no reason to stop trying
Uh-huh.
before going to a C-section. And yeah, it ended up being fine. She came out, she was beautiful, happy. Like I was bawling, everyone's crying. And We named her Sailor May, and May, M-A-E, is my mom's middle name. And my mom was so delirious, she did not even like put two and two together that it was
Oh.
her middle name. I'm like, Mom, it's your middle name. She's like, oh my gosh. And she started crying all over again.
Did you always know you wanted a second?
No, we were like, we're just going and done for sure. It wasn't that we didn't want a second. I was just like, there's no way I'm going to have like, it was a miracle that Sailor was born, like was a natural conception anyways.
Uh-huh.
We're like, it's just impossible. Like, how are we ever going to have a second? And we both had agreed, like, we'll be happy with just one, right? Like, I was 40 years old. And it's so funny at that point in time. And I know so many more people now, but I was like, I'm so old, but I'm like, I'm really not, right? Like,
Yeah.
I really wasn't that old having her because now, like, I mean, I know people that are over 50 having babies. So, I was probably young compared to some people, but I think all of my friends, I mean, I have friends right now who have kids that are in college and I have a 2-year-old, right? So it's like the whole spectrum. I grew up in a small town like that, people just didn't go to college or went to college and then got married to someone they met in college and had kids right away. And, add 20 years to that and they're in college now, right? So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, so we had Sailor and I was the worst, like anxious person. Like my husband would make me like we had a condo at the time. So he'd make me go upstairs, put earplugs in, and he'd stay down in the living room with Sailor and like just let me sleep. Because if I was awake, I would just watch her sleep because I was so anxious that she was going to like stop breathing I mean, it was the worst. It was awful. He was like, I would just stare at the monitor if she was like once she went to her room, like, yeah. I mean, I'm way better now, but it's still like I have a really like I'm an anxious person. I'm like a good functioning anxious person, but I go to therapy for anxiety. Like I have a lot of anxiety, so it definitely came out after she was born for sure.
Yeah, I can see myself doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable. I mean, the thing we did learn, I will give you one piece of advice of like the whole sleeping thing. You go from sleeping 8 or 9 hours to sleeping zero, right? Pretty much. So the two things that I learned was if the baby's not gaining weight and you need to use formula, supplement with formula. Like, yes, it's amazing to breastfeed, but if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Like that was a lifesaver for us because that was literally our only problem with Sailor was I just had a very low milk supply with both of my children. They don't know if it was because of my age or just because that's just the way my body was made, and it just is what it is. But both kids were losing too much weight. And I mean, they literally gave Sailor formula the first night in the hospital because I didn't have any milk. Like I had nothing. So it finally did come in, but I would only get an ounce. And I didn't even bother pumping because I was like, I'm not going to pump for like an ounce. This is silly. Between both sides was an ounce.
Well,
And it hurt and it was uncomfortable. And I'm like, people don't sleep because they pump and then they feed and then they sleep for like 20 minutes and then you got to start all over again. Like
yeah.
feed every 3 hours when they're babies. So I just kind of gave up on pumping. I was like, I'll nurse her, whatever she gets from me. And then I supplemented with formula and she's a perfect 6-year-old. So, and I did the same thing with Jensen. So that was one thing I gave into right away. And then we did shifts. We didn't figure it out at first. Like the first night, we both held her all night and didn't sleep. We were like, where's the nurse? Where's the easy button? Where's the red button? Like, this is not. But then we quickly figured out, like, we have to take shifts. So, like, I would sleep and then he would sleep because we could handle her by ourselves, like, when it was our turn. Otherwise, no one would get any sleep. So,
Yeah.
and because we were supplementing, like, it didn't always have to be me every 3 hours. So, those are two big things. We especially like with Jensen, we're like, okay, we're going to go back to that plan of what we did with Sailor once we figured it out. So yeah, those are two things right off the bat. But, she got easier and easier. I mean, they get so much easier once they get older.
Yeah.
I mean, Jensen's in his 2s right now and he's absolutely crazy, but we love him. He's just crazy.
So let's go to trying for your second.
Yeah. And how that came about.
Yeah. How did you get there?
So I think Sailor turned 1 and we were like, she's such a great kid. She's so like adorable. She's so smart. Like she's so fun to be around. And then I think we both kind of started thinking about like down the road, like I'm older, right? Like, our parents both had kids really, really young, and got married young. And that's not us, right? I mean, Mitch is still a relative. I mean, he's 37 now, but at the end of the day, we're still like older parents compared to what our parents were. And so we were like, we don't want Sailor to just be by herself. Like, what if something ever happened to us? Or like, you think about like down the road, right? And then we
Sure.
were like, she's just such a great kid. And like, she's so happy. And wouldn't it be so awesome to give her like a sibling? So that was at like year one. And so that would have been like 2018. And so I think like further into 2018, almost 2019, we're like, let's start trying again. Let's see what happens. Like we got pregnant with her, like, see what happens. I got pregnant again. And we were surprised, but also like, okay, well, I can get pregnant. Like, and we did use like this time we used like ovulation sticks that we're trying to like be better, like trying to really see when like our window of opportunity was. The first time around. We didn't do any of that. And I think that, and then I did take a lot of supplements the second time around too. And
Uh-huh.
I did not I might have a little bit the first time to prep me for like another round of IVF. The normal like CoQ10, I think it was like acai something. I don't remember all the supplements, but there were a lot of them. But I do think that definitely helped the quality. I mean, that might be why we got pregnant with Sailor and had, that one little quality egg that was still sticking around there. So I'd started the supplements again, but I think that was pretty much it. Like we didn't go see another fertility doctor yet or anything like that, for the second round of trying, and got pregnant not too long after. And unfortunately, the 9.5 week mark, same exact time, had another miscarriage, no heartbeat. And this time we kind of knew because when we went in for the first scan at like 7, she was like, it's like under 100. Like the heartbeat was really low. And
Uh-huh.
and the baby was measuring like a week behind. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, sometimes this is just my regular OB, but she was very honest. Like, sometimes this turns around, but most of the time it doesn't. And so it wasn't a huge surprise to us that it happened, but it was still awful.
Yeah.
And I actually took it a little better this time because I had Sailor to focus on. And I know that sounds sad because I was just as upset, but I couldn't like dwell as much because I had a 2-year or however, I don't remember exactly how old she was, but Mitch took it way harder than I did. Like extremely, extremely hard. And he like couldn't really, he tried to take time off from work. And unfortunately, their policies for men are awful. He basically had to say, like, I need to take PTO, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
there was no, it didn't count as like a bereavement, I don't think. And so he tried to go back to work after a few days, and he just couldn't focus. And at the time, he worked in a call center, and he actually ended up getting fired over all this because he missed too many phone calls.
Oh.
And it was just like the worst. Looking back, it was probably the best thing that could have happened with him leaving that job because he hated it anyways. But the fact that just like there was no support from a male perspective, like who cares about the men? You're not the one who lost the baby, but it was his baby too, right? So
Yeah.
it's just something that I think is just so important that these policies are just so outdated and so antiquated that they don't even think about men, right? Like, and I'm so glad, like, I work in finance and I've worked for companies, thankfully, over the years that actually have really great parental leave policies. I don't know about the bereavement side, but even for mothers, like, if you have a miscarriage, like, you just got to go back to work the next day most of the time,
Yeah.
so. I ended up getting a DNC again, and we were same doctor, same OB, and she was able to test the fetus. And this time it was Down syndrome and an extra chromosome, like 7. So it was obviously not compatible with life again, but it was interesting that it was Down syndrome. And so I asked her about like the statistics of that, and she's like, once you're like start creeping up into your 40s, like I think the percentages go way, way up for Down syndrome. And I mean, yes, that would have just been a very different life. Like we would have obviously accepted that child for who they were and done whatever we could. But I think, it would have been a whole different life than we have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that happened, and then we were like, okay, what do we do now? Like, we don't know what to do. Do we just say we're happy with Sailor and move on? Which was hard because there's so many people that can't even have one child, never mind two, right? So you
Yeah.
feel guilty about it. Like, should I be sad that I can't have a second? So that was kind of like 2019 going into, no, that was 2018 going into 2019. And we're like, let's try a new facility. My doctor had left Conceptions. I wasn't really happy with like the new person. And I was like, CCRM has way better numbers. Their stats are just better. We've heard a lot of great things about some of the doctors. So we were like, let's go back there and try a round of our own, because we never did that, because I ended up getting pregnant with Sailor. So we never actually tried a round with just the two of us. So we had this wonderful doctor, Dr. Barton, and we did a round of IVF and we got 3 eggs. Shocking, I know. So that was my third round with 3 eggs, which was like, I was like, of course there's 3 eggs. That's just my number. Only one made it to blastocyst out of the 3. Sorry. So that was tested. So we only had one that we could test. And so I was shocked that we even got that. I was like, my husband's very optimistic about a lot of things. I am just more of a realist. It's not that I'm pessimistic. I'm just a realist. And I was like, there's no way. There's one embryo. It's not going to be normal. I just knew it wasn't going to be. Because at this point, I'm like 43, and I'm like, it's just, my other eggs were frozen at 36. Oh, I forgot. I missed the whole part of the story. We tried to use those 6 eggs that I froze, and none of them made it to blastocyst. So they were all gone.
And you did that before you did another egg retrieval.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Yeah. So, which was shocking, because I was like, they're eggs from when I was 36. But I think that's why people say it's such a numbers game, right? Like 6 eggs doesn't mean you're going to get anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think is the freezing techniques that 10 years ago, are they probably a lot better now? Yes. If I had frozen an embryo versus an egg, I probably would have had a better outcome as well. But I only froze an egg. I froze eggs, right? So they did say, and I knew that going into it, but I wasn't going to use the sperm donor when I knew I could. I was only 36. Like, I didn't want to make that decision at that point in my life, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Make embryos with someone else. So, anyways, nevertheless, we didn't have those either to use. So we did get that one embryo from the round that we did in 2019, and it had 3 abnormalities. And our doctor she said there's a 10% chance of you getting a normal embryo anyways. So we knew the chances were very, very low. And she was like, I really don't want you to do another round. Because we were like, should we do another round? Because it was kind of covered by my insurance again, sort of, some of it.
You've had some great insurance.
Finance companies just end up having a lot. And living in Colorado, they have a lot of laws that have been passed in the last couple of years that mandate you to have some sort of coverage. So, they've been definitely more proactive with those laws here in Colorado. But nevertheless, yeah, it didn't. She was like, I don't think you should do another round. I really don't think it's a good idea. And we kind of took her advice, and she's like, I think you should start looking at donor eggs. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we had never heard it. We didn't know what you were talking about. So we got all the information. We met with her and talked to her about it, but we kind of sat on it. And then the end of 2019 into 2020, COVID happened. We were like, okay, now we're really not thinking about it. And we just kind of were dealing with life, right? So I think end of summer 2020, we kind of like were here and there. We'd like bring it up, but didn't really it was more about money, to be honest. I think we had come to the conclusion, like, we could probably go the donor route, but we're like, we need to meet with the therapist again, like, just to talk through, like, they make you meet with, I'm sure you probably went through this, but
yeah,
it was the best thing that could have happened to us. So Mitch and I were sitting there at brunch. Sailor's like eating breakfast, being silly, and like, why are we sitting on this? And he's like, or he brought it up. He's like, why are we waiting? He's like, look at her. Like, in 10 years, are we going to think, did we not just do this because we were scared and because of the financial aspect? And I was like, yeah, but I just like didn't bring it up the whole time, because I was like, we're in this like COVID craziness. Like, no one knows if we're going to be alive tomorrow. I mean, it was just such a weird time. Like, it was just, I think it was the last thing on my mind. And so I'm like, okay. And I literally picked up the phone and called the next day. I was like, all right, we want to come in and talk to you about it again. So we went and met with the therapist, and it was like 2 hours of like really talking through. And I think what we ultimately concluded was that Mitch thought I would look at another baby and not see myself in this baby, and look at Sailor and see, like, we're twins. We look exactly alike, like minus the hair, but, and like just feel differently. Right. And he was worried that that would cause a lot of problems with me, like just within my brain. Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't worried about that at all. I was worried about, like, in the future, like, I couldn't figure out how to talk to Sailor about, like, well, you're biological and your brother is, like, or your sister, whatever. We didn't know at the time, but like, I was more worried about like long term, not like short term. So we were just worried about different things and I don't know why we never like talked about that, but we just didn't. We needed someone to like intervene and help us talk through it.
Or just open up the topics alone. Yeah.
And so the therapist, I mean, this was just a really wonderful therapist there. And literally walked out of there and we're like, okay, we are on the same page. It's not that we weren't on the same page. We just weren't talking about what our fears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started the process like the next day, which I mean, not a quick process, as you know. You know, you think it's going to be like, okay, I can have, I can be pregnant in like a month.
You got at least like 3.
So yeah, we started like going through the process, like the financial aspect, and we're like, where are we going to get this money from? Like where we don't have $40,000 or, sitting in our accounts. We're like, we'll take it out of somewhere and pay it back. Like we'll figure it out. And I mean, I think a lot of people probably sit there and like crunch numbers and figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to pay for it. And I think at the end of the day, we were just like, we don't want to take it out of here, but at the end of the day, we want another child. We don't want to wait. I'm getting older. Sailor's already, I think at that point, almost 4. So, we were just like, we can't sit on this too much longer. So we just decided to move forward with it. And we also were like, let's start looking at donors. So we decided to use the database that they had internally. We didn't want to go outside of CCRM, which ultimately it was very happy with, but it also narrows down your selection a lot. So at first I was like, okay, there's nobody in here that looks like me. And I think a lot of it was COVID, right? Like, I'm sure they didn't have as many donors as they normally have because it was the middle of COVID.
Sure.
But luckily, I had gotten to know the nurses really well. I had gotten to know the lady who ran the donor database at CCR pretty well. And I was like, we need your help. Like, can you please, like, other people coming up in the pipeline that we don't see yet on the database that, maybe would be a good fit. I mean, our only criteria really in the beginning was I wanted someone that kind of looked like me. My husband has dark hair, like beard. I don't know if you can see him in pictures, but he's got a lot darker features, right? And I just wanted to like, if I could have one thing, have like a little bit of me in this child.
So you were looking for maybe blonde hair?
Blonde, blue eyes, yeah.
Okay.
But I honestly, the eye color didn't, I mean, just blonde hair, fair skin was like really like the beginning. I also like didn't want a lot of like mental health issues. I didn't want like a lot of cancer issues. I mean, you've seen the profiles. There's a lot of information.
Yeah.
The great thing about CCRM's database is a lot of people don't even make it to the donor part because they screen very, very heavily. I mean, they told us that like a good percentage of the people that come in that want to donate don't make it through the psychological testing.
Wow.
That's like the first criteria. So that was really interesting. So I did feel like whoever we did pick was at least like really, really vetted through this process.
Yeah.
And I think almost all of them were proven donors. There might have been a few new ones in there, but we could see like the difference between that. And we also wanted frozen eggs. So that was it was a little bit less expensive to do frozen.
We did too.
Yeah, that was another criteria because we also knew that we didn't want to have like 5 more kids. Like we just wanted 1 more.
Right.
So I didn't want like 75 eggs. I'm joking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say. And other people were definitely in a different boat and wanted the fresh because they wanted to get as many eggs as possible because they didn't have any children yet. So we ended up picking a donor. Finally, the database coordinator was like, I have one coming up. She's in the process of doing her egg freezing right now. I think she'd be perfect. So we looked at her profile and like they let us like as soon as she went like live, we're like, okay, that's ours. Like we paid that day. Well, so because she hadn't like donated yet, or no, she was in the process of doing it. She was literally so we had to wait like a month or 2. I don't remember the exact like timeline, but so we're waiting. The day before she's about to have her surgery for egg retrieval, she got COVID.
Oh no.
They had to cancel the whole cycle. They had to cancel because at that point we couldn't even go to their office without getting tested for COVID. I mean, it was pretty like, this was like early 2021, right? No vaccines yet, nothing. So they were like, do you want to wait until she gets better? And like, maybe in 3 or 4 months, maybe she can do another cycle. And I'm like, no, I've already waited 3 months. Like, you're at that point where you're like, no, I'm not waiting any longer. And it took us a month or 2 just to pick her to begin with, because it was such an overwhelming process to pick the donor at least for me, it was. And I kind of like started the process and then I would narrow them down and show them to Mitch because I didn't want him to have to look through like 50 of these. And I was being very thorough. It's just the way my brain works. I wanted to like read all of them, like front to back. So it took me a while to really go through them all, but literally picked another donor within 48 hours. It took me like
Nice.
a month to pick the first one. And I was like, okay. And that's who we ended up with. That's Jensen. But like, I mean, the fact that I picked someone so quickly after, I think at that point I was just over it. I was like, we need someone like, and there happened to be a bunch of people that had gotten through their cycles and frozen their eggs and in the database that fit my criteria. So I had way more to pick from than I did like when I looked the first time because I hadn't
Uh-huh.
looked at the database again because there was no reason to. I was waiting for this person. So yeah, we picked her really quickly. And so yeah, she was great. I mean, literally like no issues, like nothing in the family. Young, like 23. I think she had this was her fourth time donating. I don't know if it told us if there were any live births. I can't remember if CCRM discloses that, or maybe like the nurse was able to tell us that part. But I think we had
If
known that maybe there was one live birth from her eggs before. But
yeah, so you didn't know she was a proven donor.
yeah, I did. I feel like I did know that she had one live birth from her eggs. I think we knew that.
If I
Um,
had to do it again, I think that would be important to me.
yeah.
This doing it the first time, I had no idea. But after we went through the process, I was like, oh yeah, that would be very important again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think it's so hard though, because at that point you're like, you've gone through everything else just to get to this point, right? I
Yeah.
mean, people go this route. It's not because they just feel it, they've been through like 17 other things first, right? So
Right.
you're just so desperate, number one, but also just like in a hurry.
Hmm.
But I'm glad that, everything works out for a reason, right? Like I'm not religious or anything, but I do believe like we wouldn't have Jensen if it wasn't for this second donor kind of jumping in, right?
Yep.
Whether she knew it or not. And so yeah, so we ended up using her.
How
Um,
many eggs did you buy?
that's what I was just gonna say. So
Okay.
there are lots come in lots of 8 at
Okay.
CCR. And of course, like the more you buy, the more expensive it is, of course.
Yep.
But they said any odd number lots, they would be willing to sell like egg by egg, right? Like
Uh-huh.
if it wasn't a perfect lot of 8. So there were like 3 left over that didn't like fit into a lot of 8. And I had talked to Jeannie actually about this. I might have talked to Peggy too. I can't remember, but I remember talking to Jeannie because she had done it right before. I mean, her daughter's only like a month or two older than Jensen.
Mhm.
So she had literally, so we were kind of like going back and forth, like, how many did you buy? How many did you buy? Like, it's kind of funny. Like we're buying like a car or something, but we knew that there were 3 extra. And at the time, it's probably way more now, but it was like $1,000 for each egg extra. And I'm like, well, you're already spending $40,000, whatever it is. What's another 3? Like
Yeah.
at this point. So we were like, yes, let's grab those. And I'm so glad we did because out of 11 eggs, I think 9 or 8 or 9 fertilized. And we got 6 blastocysts, I think.
Wow.
And then we got 3 normal and 1 mosaic.
That's
So, I mean,
great.
really like 3, right? Like out of 11 eggs, we only got 3 normal. And Mitch is young. So it's not like, it's
Uh-huh.
just not every egg is perfect, right? Like,
Yep.
so we had 2 boys and a girl. I don't remember what the mosaic was. It's funny with Sailor, we didn't know what Sailor was until she came out because it was natural pregnancy and we decided not to find out because we thought she was going to be it. And we just wanted to be surprised.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, well, we asked our doctor, we're like, well, are they all the same? She's like, no, you have both. And then she's like, and you have equal of both. So maybe the mosaic was a girl. So then we're like, okay, like we were asking like pointed questions. So we're like, okay, so we're not going to be surprised. So I kind of wanted to have another girl, but Mitch was like, wouldn't it be great to have one of you? Like, we're only going to do this once. Like, wouldn't it be great to have a boy? And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I mean, I'm so glad like that we chose boy, but so we did choose the gender. We also asked about the quality and the 2 best quality. They were equal, exactly like 6 BB. And it was 1 boy and 1 girl that was 6 BB. So it
Wow.
wasn't like one was better than the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we just ended up choosing boy. And that's when we used. So we transferred April of 2021, and then he was born December of 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
So take us through like your transfer and the 2-week wait and
Oh
finding
yeah.
out.
Yeah. So the transfer, yeah, I mean, that was pretty like I mean, much easier than the egg retrieval for sure. Like
Oh yeah.
you can eat, you drink a lot of water, you go in, lay down, you get some Valium. It was great. I mean, way easier, right? But yeah, no, I have a video of it. I don't think we were supposed to take one, but Mitch took one anyway. So we have a video of them like putting the catheter into my uterus, which is really cool. So I can show, we showed Sailor and we've showed like our parents and they were like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then we have got a picture of the embryo. And so we actually have that painted over his changing table in his room.
Oh,
If someone
neat.
paint it. And he knows like the whole story, which I can talk about after. But yeah, the transfer went fine. And then it's funny. Some doctors are like, you need to get on bed rest. Other doctors are like, go run a marathon. I mean, it's really like all over the place.
It really is.
I'm like, well, you know what? Like my mom's going to be here. We flew my mom out. I'm like, well, I'll just rest. Let's just go the resting route. And I didn't want like Sailor jumping on me or like me having to pick her up, even though she was 4. Like I just was nervous, you know? So I just like, I mean, I would get up here and there, but I mostly like stayed like resting for a couple days. And then, yeah, I mean, that 2 weeks sucked like it does for everybody. Cause I was like, and I didn't test or anything because I didn't
Ooh.
really, it's funny. I mean, I'd been following a lot of people on Instagram by that point, and I was like, that's just going to make me more crazy because I'm not gonna be able to read the lines, right? Like I have no idea. Like, and I just, yeah, so I never tested. And so we went in at the 2 week mark. Oh, wait, did we go in before that? No, we went at the 2 week mark and I did the test. Like, they're like, come in really early. And it was like a terrible day in Colorado. Like, it was like sleeting. I don't know what it was doing. And I drove all the way out to Lone Tree. Like, they have an office in Denver, but they do all the lab stuff, like all the official lab stuff down at the big office, like in Lone Tree. So I drove all the way there. It took forever. And I was like, oh, good. Well, I'm going to be like the first one here. And so they'll call me soon. It was like 1 o'clock. So I paced in my office for hours, like back and forth. I had like all these phone calls for work and I could barely focus. So then the phone finally rings at like 1 o'clock and it's the doctor. And the nurse told me she was going to call me, not the doctor. So I'm like, nope,
Oh,
didn't work.
no.
And she's like, hi, this is Dr. Barton, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it didn't work, right? I didn't even let her finish. I did not even let her say a word. I was like, you're calling to tell me it didn't work. She's like, Tara, it's okay. You're pregnant. And I was like, what? So I ran down the stairs to find Mitch. I almost fell down the stairs. Like, it was just disaster. I was a disaster. So yeah, it worked. I was shocked because I'd heard like so many stories about like sometimes the first transfer doesn't work. Like it doesn't always work. But my husband did keep telling me, like, you have been pregnant 3 times. Like, you don't have a problem getting pregnant. You just have bad egg, poor quality eggs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a lot of people just can't even get pregnant, right? Like, never, they all have all these problems with the uterus, whatever that might be. So,
That was pretty much my story. Is
yeah.
I've had 2 miscarriages, and I can get pregnant. I just can't keep them.
Yeah, but it was always poor quality. It was always a chromosomal issue with you.
No, I never even knew. I never got that far to
You
even
never got that
know.
far. Yeah.
And we tried to have it tested, but I don't think I got any tissues.
Yeah.
Do you remember your HGC levels?
Yeah, I think the first one was like, I want to say it was like high, like it was pretty high. Like it wasn't 100, but it was high. It was like 70 or 80. And then I remember going back like 2 days later, getting it again, and it had tripled or quadrupled. So that was good. So I wasn't like super nervous about, it's funny, like I was more nervous about that first like call, the first phone call, like from the blood test, because I hadn't tested. So I really went in there like not knowing anything. But once I got like a decent number that first call, and I remember asking the nurse, like, is that a good number? Is that a bad number? Like, so I was like a crazy person, like everyone probably. She's like, no, that's really good. Like, you don't want it to be under 50, I think is what they usually say, right? If it's under 50, it could go either way. But yeah, no, it was pretty high. And then, yeah, the second one, it doubled. I never got a third one. I think they were pretty confident, like that it's a tested embryo. I had been pregnant before I had a live birth, I think I was probably an anomaly to most of the people that I think, right? Like, it's not like,
I only got tested twice too.
Oh, you did? Okay. I've heard that a lot of people get three, sometimes 4.
I've seen that too. I
was like, my doctor didn't do that. I mean, it wouldn't have changed the course of anything, right? But so interestingly though, I think the harder part was, well, first that 2 weeks waiting, but then I knew I had to wait 2 more weeks to see the heartbeat. And I think that was like pretty scary. And one night, like 5.5 weeks, I started bleeding like pretty bad. Like it wasn't like a little bit. And I was like, oh, it's over. And I started like screaming and like I was trying not to yell too loud because Sailor was sleeping. And Mitch was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm bleeding. So I ended up calling.
It was red too, right?
Oh, yeah. It was
okay.
It was like a period. Yeah. I mean, it was bad. It wasn't like gushing out of me, but it was enough that it was like,
Yeah. Anything. Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything.
So but it was 9 o'clock at night. And like, they're like, they tell you, well, if it's filling up a pad in more than an hour. And I'm like, no, it's not like that, but it's still blood and you don't expect it. Like I never bled at all with Sailor. And like I said, I'd been pregnant. So it was very shocking to see that, right? Like knowing that I was pregnant so I called CCRM and someone had to call me back because it's after hours. I called my OB, someone had to call me back. I just called like everyone I could call basically. And CCRM finally called me back and they're like, just come in tomorrow at whatever time and we'll do a quick ultrasound just to see if everything's okay. But they're like, we don't know what we're going to see because it's only 5.5 weeks. Like, I don't want to make any promises to you that we're going to see something because it's so early. So didn't sleep, I don't think at all. Like, I was like, it's over, it's over, it's over. Like, I was just convinced that it was over. We do this ultrasound and I just remember seeing like a sac and I see like the little dot and I'm like, oh my God, like, and then the nurse was like, no, like, and they could see the heartbeat, just not hear it because it's way too early to hear it, but they could see it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like there's a baby in there, like, and they're like, yeah, they're like, see, I had an SCH, I had a whatever it's called, subchorionic hemorrhage, which now that I've read up on it, like 90% of the people doing IVF have, I mean, there's such a high percentage. So many people I know ended up having that bleeding around that time-ish from like an SCH. So, and they could see it on the ultrasound, like a little blob, like above. And they're like, it'll probably go away. But if it does, like, you might bleed a little bit longer, but the baby's in there, the baby's like heart's beating. But like, let's see. I was coming in anyways, like literally 5 days later for the actual real 6-week appointment or whatever. So I went and like the baby had already grown, the heartbeat was even better. Like the SCH was almost gone. So like everything from there on out was like great. But that was a few scary. I was still like a little nervous until I got to like the 12-week mark, like just like knowing that I'd never had that issue before. Like I was like, why did that happen? But from what I understand, like I think all the medication, the progesterone, all that stuff like can cause this. Like it's pretty common in IVF for some reason. So
now, how was it getting past 9 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was okay. Like luckily, like I said, I could go in every week. And I remember, so I called my OB, like my OB hadn't heard from me in a year. Well, I'd gone in for my normal exams, but like never, like I hadn't talked to her in almost a year because I was doing all this stuff with the fertility clinic. So I didn't need to go see her, right? Like why go to two doctors for the same thing? So I called and of course, just someone at the front desk, like they don't know who I am from a hole in the wall. And they're like, well, technically you're not supposed to come in until you're like past this. Like, I'm like, no. You don't understand who I am. Like, this is not how we're going to do this. And so I was like, can you leave a message for her? Like for Dr. Offerdahl, like she'll know who I am. She won't be like, you know what I mean? I was like, no, I want to come, like, I'm graduating from the fertility clinic at 9 weeks. I want to see her at 10 weeks. Like, cause they were telling me like 12 weeks. And I was like, no, I'm not waiting 3 weeks. So thankfully she did get the message and I got an appointment like within a week of my last fertility appointment. But I was like, no, this is not okay. And I had said like, this is what happened at like 5.5 weeks. Like we need to make sure nothing else is going wrong, etc. So they're like, okay. So yeah, I mean, but it's like, I had to like beg and plead for someone to like leave a message for her. But once we got past the like miscommunication or just kind of like not understanding how like important it was for me to be seen like consistently, it was okay. But that was a little bit frustrating in the beginning that they were like, no, sorry. Like I was just like a normal, like 44-year-old, like pregnant person. And so interesting this time too, I got an MFM right off the bat. So that was awesome. Like, because I was now at the point of Sailor wasn't IVF and I was only 40. So I never had an MFM in the first pregnancy, even though I was 40. There was no like IVF component and I think obviously it was a natural pregnancy. So the combination of donor egg, IVF and being 44, like put me into the, like, you need two doctors category, which was great. Like I really made me feel so much better knowing I had like alternating appointments with them and that the MFM did everything like more in depth. Not that there was anything wrong that my doctor did, but it was just like, they look for a lot of different things and like, they know the whole, like, they see a lot more patients with like donor egg or donor sperm or donor embryos or whatever it might be, right? So they're aware of all the complications that could happen and they look for different things, right? So I felt a lot more comfortable about that.
Was there any products or anything that you could recommend that helped with pregnancy?
I did not buy a Doppler.
That's
My
what
husband
Jamie
was,
had.
I wanted to, but he was like, you're not getting one. You already have way too much anxiety. It's just going to make you crazy. And I'm not a doctor. And like half the time I probably would have found like my heartbeat instead of the baby's, like, just wasn't worth it. No, I mean, I tried to like, both pregnancies, I was very like nauseous until 20 weeks, not throwing up, but nauseous the whole time. And so I ended up on the diclegis medication that they prescribe
Uh-huh.
from the doctor's office. But you can also use like, I think it's like a combination of like B12 or something. There's like a natural remedy too. But other than that, no, I didn't really like use any specific products. Like, I mean, once I got past my grilled cheese phase, like I definitely tried to eat like more healthy, but that was all I could get down for the like those like handful of weeks where I was so nauseous. The first pregnancy, I exercised the whole time. I was probably the most fit I've ever been. I only gained like 25 pounds with Sailor. I gained a ton of weight after I delivered Sailor and just kept gaining weight. I think breastfeeding actually made me gain weight. Everyone says it makes you lose weight.
Really?
Why? It's not true. I mean, it's just, for me, it's not true. I mean, I have a very different body type than like, most, whatever, not most people. I'm just like, I'm never going to be this skinny, tiny thing, but like I am 50 pounds heavier than I was when I gave birth to Sailor. And I
Uh-huh.
just have kept gaining weight and I can't get it off no matter what I do, exercise, diet, whatever it is. So I was overweight going into the pregnancy with Shenson, which wasn't ideal, but it wasn't like it was scary. I'm not at a scary weight. I wasn't as fit as I was with Sailor for sure. And then having a toddler or even a 4-year-old, whatever she was when Jensen was born, like I did not have time to exercise that much. Like I tried to go on walks and things of that nature, but it just was so much more difficult with already having another kid in the house and like trying to like I definitely feel 4 years made a difference of how I felt during my pregnancy. Like I felt way better pregnant with Sailor than I did with Jensen. Like I was just way more tired, way more sore. My bones hurt more. Like
Uh-huh.
I had a lot of round ligament pain around like 20, 25 weeks. Like I thought I was going to have to go to the ER when I was visiting my parents. Like
Ooh.
I thought I had a UTI. It was just round ligament pain. Like everything was fine, but it was just hard. Like it was just harder to have, my body just wasn't in as good of shape and I was older and I
Uh-huh.
had a little kid too, right? Like, I mean, my husband helped out as much as he could, but it's just hard. It's just harder. I was just way more exhausted too. And then, so everything was good up until like 36 weeks. My blood pressure started creeping up and it just started creeping up and creeping up. And my doctor, I went in for my 37-week appointment and I never went home.
Ugh.
It was like 184 over like 90 or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it
Mm.
was, but I didn't know it was high. Like I was very tired, but like I wasn't like swollen. I mean, I was swollen a little bit, but I didn't have those like normal signs of like high blood pressure where you're like, you press your skin and it won't like, it just stays like a big dent. Like I didn't have that. But I mean, I was finally convinced her. I'm like, can I just go home and pack a bag? She's like, you didn't pack a bag yet? I'm like, no, I'm only 36 weeks. Like, no, I didn't pack a bag. So I'm like, can I just pack a bag and like say goodbye to Sailor? Can I go get her from school and like then go to the hospital? Okay, fine. So it's so funny. Like literally, we went home. I had 1 hour. She gave me an hour. I packed a quick bag, and Mitch literally got Sailor. I said bye to her, and I tucked it and rolled. Like they dropped me off at the hospital. I walked out of the car by myself, and they drove off. Like
Oh my gosh.
there was no like hugs. Like I'll see you later. Like because they wanted me, they were like, we don't want you at home. Like, we want to monitor you. Like, and there was a chance I wasn't going to have to stay. So I think in the back of, I mean, I knew in the back of my head I wasn't going to go back. Like, I was going to be delivering him soon. But like, it was so different. I was more worried about Sailor than I was about myself. Like, let's make sure she
Yeah.
has, like, because he went and like packed her a bag, dropped her off at our neighbors, like, that we called way sooner than we thought we were going to have to call her, like to take Sailor because she had to go to school. I mean, it was just like it was so different when you have another child. It's not like you could just walk in with me and we could leisurely like walk into L&D. Like it just didn't work that way.
Uh-huh.
So I go up by myself. They hooked me up to a bunch of stuff and they're like, yeah, your blood pressure is really high. We're going to give you some magnesium, which is the worst thing in the world. It's awful. It makes you feel like you have the flu. It makes you feel like you're
Oh.
gonna throw up. But that's the only thing that'll like lower it.
Uh-huh.
And once you're on it, like you have to be on it. Like I never got off of it until after like Jensen was delivered. And they're like, okay, well, it's not really going down. And like, I think overnight into the next day was when I turned to 37 weeks. And that's technically not considered like premature anymore. Nevertheless, they're like, okay, let's start inducing you. So like the next day. So yeah, I got there on like a Monday. I didn't have Jensen until Thursday. It was like the same thing as Sailor.
Uh,
And so they started inducing me. Nothing really happened. And this time around, I went through Rose Hospital, which is our hospital in Denver. It has a doula program
uh-huh.
internally. So we had already like decided we were going to go that route this time and see if it like helped and made my anxiety a little bit less. And just, I wanted like a calming presence. And so I think like, I don't even know what day, Tuesday afternoon, we're like, why don't you come? Like, I'm sure he's going to be here by tonight. Cause I had already been like, on the induction medication for like a whole day.
Were you on Pitocin?
Yeah. And they just,
Okay.
kept increasing it. Finally got it to the most they could get it. And then they're like, yeah, you're still not dilated. And so the doula stayed overnight with me Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then she had been working for 12 hours and she had to, like, that's like their limit,
Uh-huh.
at least with this program. And they're like, we can send someone else, which we were willing to pay for. But I was like, well, I'm not going to waste another like $1,000 or 500, whatever it was. Like, and if we know if the baby's not coming anytime soon. So we were just kind of like sitting on it. And then all of a sudden they checked me and I'm like 9 centimeters. And I'm like, oh shit, I guess the baby's coming now. It was like Wednesday morning, basically. Like, let's start getting you ready. So I think I had Jensen around like 12 o'clock and I didn't push for very long. That was like pretty easy this time. Like it was so much, I knew what was happening. So it was just so different, but the doula was already gone at this point. But at least like it was, you could tell he was like ready to come out. So he comes out and he's got the cord wrapped a little bit. So they had to like
Oh.
untangle it, give him some oxygen, but he was okay. But I was like really worried at first because I didn't hear him crying. And I
Uh-huh.
was so exhausted by this point because the magnesium just makes you feel awful. It just makes you so tired and like out of it. So I remember like watching them take him. This is why I don't think I have a picture. I remember them taking him to the incubator and giving him a little bit of oxygen and like cleaning him up and untangle it. Like they had to untangle the cord. And then I don't think Mitch actually cut the cord because of all the stuff going on with Jensen. And then they're like trying to get deliver the placenta
Uh-huh.
and it wouldn't come out. And they're like, honestly, that was worse than pushing Jensen out of my body. They're like pushing
Whoa.
stomach, like it's like they're pumping my stomach or something. They're just pushing and pushing and pushing. Like 45 minutes go by and they roll in like a ultrasound machine to look and see if there's anything left, and they see a little bit. So they take like this big ice cream scoop tool. It looks like an ice cream scoop. I don't know what it's called. And they literally like go in and like scoop out the rest of the placenta. And they're like, okay, like there's nothing on the ultrasound. Like I could see the ultrasound. It's
Uh-huh.
out. You're good. They give me some medicine to like kind of rest and go to sleep, like some pain meds or whatever. And it's just like, okay, like this is like a half an hour later. Like Jensen's he didn't have to go to the NICU. Like he was stable. They were like cleaning him up still, but like wrapping him up. He's like, I'm gonna go get Sailor and bring her back. So I'll be back in like an hour. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sleep. Literally, I mean, Mitch said he like got to the car and had started driving away. I roll over and I just feel this gush come out of me. And I'm like, that's weird. I shouldn't have any amniotic fluid left. And then
Yeah.
I started to feel like I was gonna pass out. So I found somehow found the button, like somewhere, I don't know where it was, the red button, and pressed it before I like went like blacked out or whatever. I don't think I blacked out. I don't think I got to the point of blacking out. And they come running in and there's just blood everywhere, like all over the floor. It's everywhere. So I'm hemorrhaging is what's happening. But I didn't know that. I thought it was just fluid or something. I don't know. I thought I like peed my pants. I didn't know what happened, to be honest.
Yeah. You
But
were trying to sleep.
I could tell something wasn't right because I could hear the blood pressure machine going off. And I felt like I was going to pass out. And that's usually what happens when your blood pressure gets too low.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess it went down to like 50 over something, my blood pressure.
Whoa.
And I lost 2.5 liters of blood, I think. And this
Wow.
all happened in like a 3 minute like span. It wasn't very long. Me
Uh-huh.
rolling over, like fine, like if I didn't roll over, I mean, it still probably would have happened. But I think because I like moved, so like I had to like pick myself up almost and move myself because I had all these things attached to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, so like all these people come running in because everything's beeping and they're like, "Where's Mitch?" And I'm like, "I don't know. He just left to go get a Sailor. Call him." And I'm like, "You want me to call him right now?" Like, I don't know what's happening to me. So I give someone my phone. I don't even know how I did that, but I remember giving a nurse my phone and they call him. They're like, "She's hemorrhaging. You need to come back." And he's like, "Oh my God." So he like threw the car in reverse, like parked in some illegal like parking spot, I think. I don't even know, ran back into the hospital. I mean, he had only maybe driven like 1 minute, runs back up, and he comes in and he sees like blood all over the floor and them like unhooking me and like I had to sign. I remember signing like a clipboard because they're like, we might have to take your uterus. I'm like, I don't care. Just, I was like, you can take what
Whoa.
you want. Just make sure I live. Like,
Yeah.
take all my organs. Just you can leave the ones I need to live. And, but they're like, well, that means you won't be able to have like another baby. I'm like, that's fine. Like, just, I knew we weren't going to have any more kids. So like, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just like, just save me. Cause I knew that like things were not going well. I could tell, like, I didn't feel right at all. And I kind of, so all I remember is like them unhooking me and I hear code white over the intercom. And I'm like, is that like code blue, like in the movies? Like, am I dying? Like, I didn't know. Like, I mean, it's funny now because like the stupid things I said, like who thinks of that when they're like in that situation? But I was like, they're like, no, that means the mom's in trouble. Like, and they need all the doctors on hand like to come. And so Mitch just said there was like 12 or people in the room and like they're unhooking me and then they rushed the bed. Like it's like the movies. Like I was like, they were all running down the hallway to surgery and they left Mitch in the room with my blood all over the floor.
Oh my gosh. Like a crime scene or something.
Exactly. For like an hour. They didn't come back for like an hour.
And he's like, what is going on?
Oh, he called my mom and his mom. I was like, I don't know if I'm going home by myself. Like, I don't know if Tyra's going to live or die. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, I mean, they were like scaring and not purposely scaring him, but it was like pretty dire. Like, I was losing way too much blood and they couldn't like replace it fast enough, I guess. And my blood pressure was dropping. I mean, it was just like bad. So I finally get to the OR and I remember them like, there's like all these anesthesia people around me, but they never put me to sleep. They kept me awake because they needed to make sure that I could answer questions, I guess. I don't really know why they kept me awake, but
Uh-huh.
it was almost like I was like in a robot. Like, have you ever had nitrous oxide at the dentist? Like laughing gas?
I don't think so.
Okay. It kind of feels like you're in this, like, your voice sounds funny and like, it's like kind of like, it's like you're very fuzzy. It's like you had like a lot to drink, I guess is how I describe it. I don't think that's what they gave me, but it was like I was so sedated, but I could still hear everybody, which was
Uh-huh.
even worse because I couldn't like form words really, but I could hear what everyone was saying. There's like 15 people in the operating room. And so basically what they did is I think they like had to so there what happened was is there was still a piece of the placenta left and it shouldn't have been in there. And they I mean it really I can't even get mad at anyone because I looked at the ultrasound too, not that I know what I'm looking at, but like there was nothing on the screen. So it
Uh-huh.
was a tiny little piece, but apparently like this happens a lot with an IVF pregnancy. It's not to scare you, but because you use all that progesterone and all those drugs to make the placenta to make your placenta stick,
Uh-huh.
right? And the baby stay in your uterus, it gets sticky and like doesn't come out the way it should.
Oh
Like I didn't
no.
have this problem with Sailor. So, but nevertheless, they were able to get it out. But I had to stay like kind of open wound on the table for an hour because they said if they couldn't stop the bleeding, they were going to have to do a hysterectomy. So they were kind of waiting to see if it, like, I don't know if they cauterized something. I don't really know what they did besides get the piece of placenta out, but
Uh-huh.
they finally were able to stop the bleeding. But like, I was so like just out of it. And like, I remember being able to find, they must have like been weaning me off of the like sedation. I was like, did anyone ever go and talk to my husband and tell him that I'm alive? Like, I mean, I think I was like trying to joke around at this point, and they're like, oh shit, like we forgot about him. Like, I
Wow.
remember. And then he's like, yeah, they finally came back in and like, we're like, oh my God, we're so sorry we left you in here, but we were more worried about like saving your wife and like
Yeah.
friends didn't really care about you. That's not what they said, but like
Yeah.
he was has way more PTSD about the whole situation than I do because I don't really like,
You
I
don't
didn't see
remember.
blood. I didn't see the crime scene. I just remember like parts of it, but like the parts I'm telling you, that part I remember, but I don't remember the rest of it. And then like
Whoa.
after I came out of surgery, I had to go into this like weird recovery room and it was like super hot, I remember. And so I still hadn't seen Jensen. So this is like he was born at like 12. I think it was like 9 o'clock before I saw him
Wow.
PM.
Now,
I like
wait, you still have your uterus.
I still have my uterus, yeah. So they just like got the placenta out and like sewed me up or cauterized, whatever. And I got a
Okay.
blood transfusion. I got like 2 liters of blood.
Wow. So can you still have kids?
Yeah. I mean, we
Okay.
don't plan on having any more, but yes,
Sure. Okay.
nothing happened to my uterus. But
Okay.
they warned me in the midst of all this, like we may have to if you don't stop bleeding, we're taking your uterus.
Right,
Because
right.
I guess that would be the only way to make you stop bleeding in this situation.
Uh-huh.
So I don't really know
Wow.
the medical
Sure.
behind it, but yeah. So that was
Wow.
crazy, though. That whole situation was so crazy, and I like still can't believe that even happened, to be honest. But um, I think part of it could have been like, I wonder if the magnesium had anything to do with it. I don't really know. Like, it was just like a lot of complications at the end, but I was totally fine until 36 weeks, like no problems whatsoever.
Wow. So
But I
when
think
did
also the age and the blood pressure are correlated too, and maybe my weight. I don't know. Like, it could have been a combination of things, right?
uh-huh. So when did you get to see Jensen?
Yeah, like 9 o'clock that night, I think. I remember
Wow.
them bringing him in, and I could barely hold him because I was just so tired. And like they kept checking me like every hour to make sure I wasn't like hemorrhaging anymore. And like it was just like it was awful. And I still hadn't like sat up or got out of bed, like nothing, because I was all hooked up to every like monitor you could possibly think of and still in a recovery like area. Yeah, and then I finally got to see him, and then I was just so exhausted. Like they're like, "Do you want us to bring him to the nursery tonight?" And I was like, "Yes, please." Like I couldn't even barely hold him. I mean, I was just physically, emotionally like my body just wasn't like functioning anymore by that point, you know.
Yeah.
But then Thursday I was like starting to be more myself, and like they finally got me out of bed, but like I still had to wear like a lot of the compression things, and like they kept me extra, obviously. Like I didn't go
Yeah.
right because they wanted to make sure that I didn't have any complications. I mean, luckily I was totally fine. Like I didn't have any problems. I just needed to rest. And like I don't think I needed any more blood or anything either after that initial like blood transfusion, but
Uh-huh.
I was very weak. I almost felt like I had the flu for a couple weeks, but it was probably from losing all that blood, right? And like
Yeah.
going through the trauma, like the birth trauma, whatever you want to call it. But I don't really like, it's funny because people are like, aren't you like, don't you have these like bad memories? I'm like, no, I really don't because
You
I
don't have
don't.
any.
Yeah, I mean, I have some, right? Like the few things,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't really have like Mitch has worse memories than I do of it, you know?
Yeah.
But no, and then I like remember spending like most of the day on Thursday with him. And then I think I finally went home on Saturday. Like Sailor came like Friday with my mom and Mitch. So I finally got to see her. And then, yeah, I think I went home Saturday, but I was pretty like weak for a while. And then they put me on high blood pressure medication because they were like, well, see, this is like, you had all these problems. I literally like just about passed out in the shower because I didn't need it anymore. Like I think as soon as I got home, I got back to like normal, like walking around and eating. And like, yeah, I was exhausted from having like all this happen in a newborn. But like,
Yeah.
so they're like, oh my God, like, what's your blood pressure? So I had like a cuff at home
Hmm.
and it was like 80. And I was like, they're like, oh my God, like, don't take that medication anymore. They're like, it's working too well. Like, you need to just stop taking it. And so I did. And then it finally like leveled out after a couple of days. But
Uh-huh.
they're like, I'd rather it be like 140 than like 80, right? Because I kept like
Yeah.
feeling I was gonna faint. And they're like, you don't want to drop the baby. Like, I mean, I was just kind of a mess for a couple of days as far as just like I couldn't get myself together. But
Yeah. Now,
once I started to feel better, it was much easier.
now, because you were so weak during those few days, was your milk coming in at all?
I don't think so. I don't remember having any. And I think I remember taking out the pump, like literally, this pump literally saw nothing as of me. I ended up giving it away and I'm like, this has been used twice. I used it once for Sailor and once for Jensen. And I got like a half an ounce and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have the same problem. And you know, my husband, I love him to death, but he's like Mr. Supplement King. And he tried, like, tried to do the same supplements we did the first time, didn't work. Like oatmeal. I mean, I still eat oatmeal every day. Like all the things they tell you to try, like it didn't work. So I
Hmm.
just nursed him. And I didn't even like with Sailor, I think I stopped at like 5.5 months nursing, like because I had 6 months off from work at my old company that I worked at. This time I had gotten, oh, in the middle of all this, I got laid off. My company got sold, but they couldn't fire me because I had had a baby. So thankfully they had to keep me on and pay for my 3 months of maternity leave. Like I got lucky that I had him early because otherwise I probably would have just been out of work that whole time.
Uh-huh.
So I still had all my benefits, all my insurance, which was really good. So, but yeah, so I ended up looking for another job the whole maternity leave. And so I did 12 1-hour interviews for the job I have now, 2 weeks after Jensen was born. So I joked that I was in a diaper during my interviews, and so was Jensen. And I literally sat on Zoom just like I'm doing now. No one can see. I wore like a suit jacket. Nobody could see me from the bottom down. I would like just go pass out after each one. Mitch has been out of work. He went back to school for a couple of years and then he's been looking for a job since he graduated. So I was the only income. So like, yeah. I got the job offer like January or February, and then I went back to work in March. So I only had 3 months off with him, which is disappointing, but I had a job. That's, it was good that I had a job. So
Yeah.
that was important. But yeah, it was a very quick maternity leave and didn't really feel like one, to be honest. It was just felt like I was going through the motions. Okay. I mean, I got a really long one the first time. 6 months paid maternity is amazing. So
That is amazing.
yeah. So I was really lucky the first time.
Well, how did you heal?
How did I heal from like all the birth
Yeah.
stuff that happened? Yeah. I mean, I think I healed pretty well. I mean, I think my only like lingering issue is I ended up needing an IUD, which was weird. It's hilarious that I have an IUD and I couldn't have like kids that easily, right? It's just like such a juxtaposition. I was having like really irregular periods. They were super painful and I never had that like at all. I never had any issues with my cycle. I was every 28 days on the dot, like was on birth control forever, like never had a problem. But then after Jensen was born, it was just all kind of all wacky and like what just felt really terrible. And one of the ways to regulate it was to get an IUD and not like, I didn't want to go on birth control again. I just don't love it. It doesn't make me feel great. And last time I went on it, I gained a bunch of weight and I already have a weight issue. So I don't want to gain any more weight. And so, yeah, it's been totally fine, interestingly. And I mean, whether I had an IUD or not, I'm not going to get pregnant naturally, right? Probably at this point, I'm going to be 47 in April. So that it wasn't to prevent pregnancy,
Right.
but it seems to have regulated everything now. But I didn't have any other issues. Like I healed pretty quickly and I didn't have, it was actually pretty normal, to be honest. It was just like that week of being in the hospital of, all the stuff that happened. But it also kind of solidified, like I did know going into it that we weren't going to have any more kids, but this like really solidified it. Like,
yeah.
100%. It's just not like, it's not worth it. I mean, if we ever changed our mind, we would go the surrogate route, but I don't think we're like 99.9% sure we're done. We still have 2 or 3 embryos, one being a mosaic, but they're just being paid for right now because we don't really know what we want to do. It's, I feel like it's complicated. We have actually met another dibling or whatever you want to call them, a donor sibling. He has 2 donor siblings out there that we know of so far. I put myself on the donor sibling registry right after he was born, like a couple
months. With the fertility clinic?
No, this is a public registry that Wendy Kramer developed when, I don't know if you've read any of her books, but she's fascinating. I just listened to I can send it to you, a really good podcast that I forgot what the name of the podcast is, but yeah, it was a really fascinating interview. And I had read a couple of her books before. Once we went the donor route, but before Jensen was born, kind of while I was pregnant, just kind of like learn, right? I mean, I just didn't know much about anything in that world. She used a sperm donor, but still kind of all the same things apply and just tell your kids when they're young and just a lot of like good practices. My big thing is, how do I talk to my child? That's like my biggest, like I work on that a lot, especially now that he's 2. That's something that we just as of like in the last couple of weeks, he really is starting to understand a lot of what we have a book, The Journey to You. It's by an Australian author, which is amazing. And he like knows the whole book now. And like the embryo on the wall, he's like, embryo in mommy's tummy. Like, and then out came Jensen. Like, I mean, it's very choppy words, but like he understands. And he's like, oh, eggy book. He calls it his eggy book. And it has like little eggs all over it. And it's like the sweetest thing. And it just talks about how we use, a helper and an angel lady to complete our family. That's how it describes it in the book. Yeah. I mean, it's all of a sudden starting to click, now that he's a little over 2. I don't know really what he understands, but I think he's starting to get it, right? Like it's something I just always like, it's not that I worry about it. It's just like, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Right. So we were on the donor sibling registry, and about a year ago, we got it was like an email. It's like, you've been matched. And I'm like, what is this? Like match.com? Or did I forget to shut that off 100 years ago? Like, what is happening? But it was another family who used the same donor. And it's been interesting. It's, not exactly how I thought it was going to go, to be honest. It's just been a little complicated. It's
like, have y'all connected?
Yeah, we met in person. So like the mom and I connected through the registry, right? And we like gave each other our phone numbers or whatever to not have to talk over their like website or whatever. And so they have two biological children and wanted a third and couldn't get pregnant with the third. So that's kind of, they ended up using the same donor as us. And then they have their little girl, and then the husband kind of more decided than the wife, but they're done having children. And so they donated the last embryo to another family, and they just had their baby in July. So we have not connected with that family. I don't really know much about them. But it's the dad, half the dad and half the dad of the family I connected with and half the donor. So it's like, it just keeps going. It's like 7 degrees of separation, right? Like, it's just this weird path of like where it goes. But so the little girl is like one, maybe 2 now, or no, maybe she's 1. Maybe she turned 1. I think she's a year younger than Jensen. And then the other little girl is like 6 months old. So there's 2 out there. We haven't been matched or connected with. So basically you go on the sibling, it's called the donor sibling registry. You go on it, you can put in your donor number, a little bit of information, like what fertility clinic, and then it just connects you when someone else puts that information in. It's that simple, which is pretty cool. Like, I mean, it has like, I think they connect like 10 to 20 people a day on the registry. Like,
wow.
It's pretty, like, it works pretty well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'll send you the podcast that Wendy Kramer did. It's pretty interesting to hear her whole story. But
yeah,
we wanted that because not to have like, oh, we want to have best friends. And like, I want Jensen to have the option to know his donor siblings if he wants to. It's up to him. I don't regret doing the registry. I don't regret meeting these people. I don't regret being like very open about like the fact that he's from a donor. I don't regret any of that. I think it's all good for our whole family. It's good for him. And that's just how we want to live our lives. But I'm also going to protect my kid, right? Like,
of course.
So it's, it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So when you were pregnant, did you tell a lot of people that you used donor eggs?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think maybe it was a little bit easier because we already had Sailor, right? Like, but I think too, like just being in that support group really, really just brought a lot out of us that, I mean, even Mitch, like, and he's not like a quiet guy, he's pretty outgoing, but he was very open too. Like, I mean, we meet new people all the time. My daughter's in 1st grade. Like, we meet a lot of new families all the time. I'm on the board of her school, and, I'm just very like social when it comes to like talking to people. And yeah, I mean, if they ask questions about Jensen or like, I mean, once I say how old I am and that I have a 2-year-old, that also raises some eyebrows, right? Like, people aren't dumb, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's just, we're just very like, yeah, like even during the pregnancy, like I didn't like blast it on Facebook, like I wasn't like, and I don't have like a public profile or anything like that, but like even new people that we met like in person, we'd have these conversations in person, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if I was like a public person on Instagram or Facebook, like I would have been open with it. But we eventually I didn't announce my pregnancy until I was like 24 weeks because it was COVID and like nobody saw me. I was like hiding in my basement. So like it's pretty easy. Like I didn't even tell I had a different job at the time, but I didn't tell anyone there because nobody knew. Like I didn't have to go anywhere. And I just wanted to make sure it was real. And I also like that company was being sold too. I keep working for companies that are being sold. I don't know what my deal is, but I knew that I was going to get laid off eventually too.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to be able to stay as long as I could because I wasn't going to go start looking for a job 6 months pregnant.
Right.
No one would hire me. I mean, maybe they would, but you know how the world is, right? So I was kind of keeping it quiet more for that reason too. But I mean, out here in Denver though, with like my close friends and, my family knew and everyone knew. But, and then, even with work people, once I shared my pregnancy, I explained the story. And I was pretty like open about the whole thing.
Uh-huh. Now, what about with Jensen? When did you start talking to him about that?
It's funny. It goes in spurts. Like sometimes like it happened lately. It's been a lot just because he's very interested in the book and he's very interested in like talking about the story in the book. So like, and he's super talkative now that he's like, I mean, all of a sudden he hit 2 and he like just keeps talking all the time. But I think like even when he was a baby, I was like, oh, like we love you so much. And we used like a helper like to create you. And it was just very simple, like a 1-second like sentence, right? And and then like once we got the embryo painted and put it over his bed, like once he started being able to point to things and like that kind of stuff. So we have like Jensen over his crib, the embryo over his changing table, and then behind it, like on the other wall, was like a picture of space, like outer space. So he'd be like embryo, Jensen, space, and like we kind of go around the room and like door, and like once he started to learn like one word, like when he was about 1, I feel like 1 to 2 was kind of when it like ramped up. right? Because before one, like I had no idea if he was even listening to me, never mind comprehending it. But
Sure.
now, I mean, he can repeat it. Like the other day, he was like, I read a story about my Aggies. Like, I mean, it wasn't as succinct as that, but it was that's pretty much what he said. And I was like, whoa, like he came out of nowhere and said it. So I think he's starting to understand. He might not remember like when he's older. I remember like he might not be like, I was talking about it too. I think, my only fear is like when he's like 10 or 12 and really gets it, like, is he going to be like, why'd you go that route? Or like, you're not my mom. Like, I don't think he'll ever say that, but like, I had a meltdown the other day about it. Like, he was being really mean and being a 2-year-old and like trying to slap me and scratch my eyes. And like, he was just being a crazy kid. And I was like, does he think I'm not his mom? And like, why I said that or why I went down that path, I have no idea because I don't think that way, but I just had a bad day and
Yeah.
went off the rails, right? And like I talked to my therapist about it. Like I'm okay now. Like it was just a bad day, but I think like those things are gonna creep in once in a while. They just
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It's different, right? It's not
Yeah.
like,
Now, what about bonding? When you saw him that night,
oh yeah,
it was just instant.
it was instant. Yeah. I actually think I had a harder time bonding with Sailor. And it was only
Really?
because I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I think I was just so scared. I was like, what do I do with this thing? Like, with Sailor, like, is she gonna break? Like, can she breathe? Like, is she gonna fall apart if I hold her the wrong way?
Yeah.
Like, and I remember like when Mitch had to go back to work after like I think he had 2 weeks of leave or some ridiculous short amount of time. And my parent, like everyone had left by that point, my parents, his parents, and I was like, what do I do with this thing? Like, I was really like, I was like, I don't know if I'm bonding with her. And then like after a few months, like, and I think I was also like super postpartum. Like I remember sitting on the floor in the middle of the living room, like crying on the floor for no reason whatsoever. Like, but I didn't have any of that with Jensen. Like it was very like natural and easy to bond with him. And I think it was almost like, wow, like we worked so hard to get you. It was almost like a relief, like, phew, like I can breathe.
Yeah.
It's just a different feeling. I mean, love them both the same, don't get me wrong, but I
Yeah.
think I had a different experience with that kind of thought process.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm grilling you all these questions because these are my fears.
Oh, it's I mean, I'm happy. You can ask me anything. I'm an
Yeah.
open book. Like, I'm
Yeah.
happy to answer any of them. But yeah, I felt like I bonded right away. And I think I had more fears about not bonding, like while I was pregnant, like kind of what you're thinking,
Yeah.
than when he actually came out. I mean, it just was weird that I didn't get to see him right. I saw him from a distance, but I didn't get to like see him right away, right?
Right.
Like because of everything that happened. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think that wasn't an issue at all. I mean, I carried him the whole time. And like we still say now, I'm like, well, my blood was running through him, so that's probably why he acts that way. Or like, or I mean, he has blonde hair and blue eyes. The donor has green eyes, so we ended up with blue, which I don't
Ooh.
really remember like the recessive genes, or I don't remember high school biology, but I'm sure there's a reason why he has blue and not green. But I mean, my blood did run through him, so he
Yeah.
is gonna like. I do believe in it's called epigenetics. I don't know if you've heard of that term,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, just kind of like they can kind of pick up some of your traits, like you're carrying the baby. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe in that. I think it can be true. It's so hard to tell, right? Like
Yeah. We're
we'll
never
never
going to
know.
really know.
No, no.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to add to your pregnancy or birth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm really thankful that you asked me to be on the podcast and that I'm here today. I think, it's great to share our story and just talk more about what we're doing, what donor conception is all about. And I think the more people share about it, the easier it's going to be for everybody. I know it's really hard and some people are super private, but I think it feels good to get it off your chest or get it like holding in things is harder than just being open about it, right? Like you don't have to be open about it with like the guy working at CVS, but you can, I think with people that you feel comfortable with. And I think education, lastly, is really, really important. I think I brought it up earlier in our conversation, but there's just a lot of people that don't know. And it's not that they're against it or that they or just like, why are you doing this? It's more just they don't know what they don't know. And I think once you start educating people on the process and what you went through to get to this point, you really open a lot of eyes. I mean, I've had people be like, oh, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? I'm like, no, I'm just fat. Like I'm overweight. Like,
Oh.
and then like these people have no idea that, I went through 7 or 8 years of fertility treatments to get Jensen and Sailor, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think people just have to like, really think sometimes before they speak.
Yeah.
And it's not okay to ask those personal questions or comment on people's bodies, or like, everyone's different. Everyone has a story. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I think that's another reason why it's important, if you can be open and if you're comfortable with being open, to be open, because it educates a lot more people and you hopefully avoid those awkward or very uncomfortable and hurtful situations that I've been through. I mean, it's probably happened to me about 12 times that someone's asked me if I was pregnant.
Uh,
And I think it's partially the world that I'm in. Like, a lot of women end up having kids older because we're in finance, and I went and got my MBA and then moved out here. Like, I didn't meet Mitch until I was 38 because I was concentrating on my career and going to school and getting a graduate degree. It just is what it is. So I think a lot of people in my world end up having children later in life, which is great. I mean, I'm glad that they're able to, but it's just, don't say stupid things. That's kind of how I feel about it at this point. But I also kind of have to like let it roll off my back and just realize that some people just don't understand, right? And those people aren't probably the people you want in your life. It's been easier to weed out, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but who your real friends are and who's like going to stick around for hopefully forever, right? Like, after going through this kind of stuff, and you've probably seen that too in your life as well. It's just, it's important to have the right people around you. But I appreciate your time, and I'm so happy that you're doing this. You're doing great stuff with all of your podcasts, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, we still have a few more questions.
Yeah.
If you're okay.
Yeah, no problem.
What has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Being old and tired. You really want me to be honest? I mean, with Sailor, it wasn't as bad. Like I said, I was way more fit and not, but yeah, I just think having like a toddler running around while you're pregnant. And also, I mean, it's just harder when you're older. You're just not as like energetic. At least I wasn't, Yeah. But I don't think, I think some people think maybe your answer would possibly be like what people think. But honestly, like, I thought about that a little bit with Sailor, but then I was like, I don't really care what anybody thinks anymore. Like, I don't care. If you don't like it, then too bad. Like, don't talk to me about it. Like, and I never got that reaction to like that. I would have been shocked if I got that reaction. I think if I was pregnant right now, maybe someone would be like, ooh, like you're 40, almost 47 and pregnant. Like, that would be a question, but also, like, who cares? It's your life. Do with it what you want. Like, who cares? You just got to not worry about what other people think. I don't know. I've gotten a lot better at that as I've gotten older, for sure. I worried way more about that when I was younger.
Yeah. And is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
I think therapy, support groups, honestly, like, not saved us, but like it made us move forward with doing this. We wouldn't have Jensen if it wasn't for that therapist, probably. We maybe would be still sitting on the idea. I don't know, right? Like, and just having a support circle around you. I think going to the CCRM support group, like, I wouldn't have met Jeannie or Peggy and have those amazing friends. And just, I think it really helped us get through like every milestone, right? In your pregnancy, like, okay, you're past the first, like you said, the 9-week mark, the 12-week mark. I mean, I'm sure you're probably still thinking that way, right? Like, okay, I'm at 15 weeks. Like, now I have another milestone to get to the anatomy scan, right? Like, I mean, you still, even though it's a tested embryo and like you've made it past a lot of milestones, it's still a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And you want everything to go perfect. So I think just having that support system and, if you're able to afford and go to therapy, I highly recommend it. And I think if you need medication, I needed anxiety meds at the end of both of my pregnancies, and I'm on them now. And I couldn't recommend them more because, if you're an anxious person or whatever it might be, depression, whatever it might be, like, as long as they're safe and your doctor approves it, like, don't hesitate, because you'd rather have more of a level head going into it than not. And that's kind of what my doctor was at with me. Like, let's just get you on something so you go into this and not have like postpartum like you did the first time, or, I'll try and avoid it, right? Like, you can't avoid everything, but those would be my 2 recommendations.
Those are good. What advice would you give yourself when you're pregnant if you could go back?
Don't be so anxious. It goes back to what I just said a second ago. But yeah, I mean, especially the first time. Yes, I was anxious with Jensen, but not nearly as anxious as I was with Sailor. But I also think it was unavoidable. I had a miscarriage and then I had another one after Sailor. It's just, when you've been through all of this, and failed IVF cycles, eggs not working, that you froze, like, I mean, you go through all these things, you're going to be anxious. There's just no getting around it.
Yeah.
But I think that, and also like, take it day by day. I feel like my brain definitely goes to like, okay, what about like these next 6 weeks, or this, like, what's going to happen at week 32.5? Like just slow down and try and enjoy it a little bit more, I guess, would be my other recommendation. Again, easier said than done, but if you can, try and enjoy it and take lots of pictures, because it's going to go by really fast.
Yes, I love that. And where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, Tara Carbo 1, and I'm sure that you'll link it in the podcast.
Yes.
And I'm private, but feel free to request, as long, I'm happy to share any information. I'm happy to answer questions. Send me a note. I think you can send a note even if I'm private with the 3 little dots, and then I can accept and correspond with you. So happy to do that with anybody.
Perfect. Well, Tara, thank you so much for your insight on donor eggs and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to chat with you.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.